According to a quote by Henry Ford, quality means doing it right when no one is looking. Hello, and welcome to another episode of AMOI Unplugged, Exploring Diversity, a show that focuses on the efforts and milestones geared towards the diversification of our nation's economy. I am Chioma Ikejiani. Thank you for joining me. You know, quality is the subject of today's episode. And so we turn to the sole statutory body that is vested with the sole responsibility of standardizing and regulating the quality of all products in Nigeria. On the show, to enlighten us more on quality is the Director General Chief Executive Officer of the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Mallam Farouk Salim. Don't go away, it's AMOI Unplugged, Exploring Diversity. Welcome to AMOI Unplugged, Exploring Diversity. You know, I have wanted to interview you because I think standard is something that every Nigerian should be concerned about. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
So let me ask you a question. Tell me a little bit or share some highlights of your journey to becoming the Director General, CEO of Standard Organization of Nigeria. How did that happen?
Well, the president appointed me. Well, essentially, after my education, I left the country for, opportunities to apply my skills overseas. But from the beginning, I knew I have to come home. I'm a pharmacist, clinical pharmacist consultant. So essentially, my experience career-wise was the only thing I thought I was bringing into the country. Education, I got it from here. So my family was ahead of me. Then the president called my number. But by the time I got this appointment, I already have a home. My family is settled. My kids are going to secondary school here because I wanted them to have that opportunity to live the experience I live. So honestly, it was a perfect setup for me. I couldn't dream of a better, at least beginning for me back in Nigeria and a better ending for me in the United States.
So now you get the phone call from the president and he asks you to serve your country. What was that mandate for you when you came in as the boss of SON in September of 2020?
The organization has a lot of professionals, well-trained professionals who are experienced and seasoned, who like their job. So all I have to do is guide and then in few things tweak the system and make sure the low-hanging fruits are first plucked. So the first thing that struck me then was that the IT department was a subunit under the PRS, which is the Planning, Research and Statistics Directorate. Now, where I come from, the IT department is the heart of our organization. So from the beginning, I knew the IT department needs to be, wiggled out of this structure and
stand on its own.
And then when I first came, the biggest issues we hear is about complacency in the organization. So the first thing we did was we sit down, rejig the organization, move people around, because we want all our employees to be all-rounded, oriented to what the organization is. So if I move you today from Kano to Lagos, you should be able to know what to expect. And you should be able to know what job could be done and should be done. And then we realized the structure of the organization was not very functional. We are bottom heavy at the top. We don't have enough management skills to do the work. When you have a national organization like we have, and you have 45 offices, you have 1,700 employees, yet we have only a few directors here and there.
Does it make
sense?
sense?
So you have to create the opportunity for people to independently
scale up.
You want a mini son in Lagos where they don't have to call you every time for every detailed information. You want a mini son in Anambra where the industry is there. So you want a situation where you have somebody, a senior position there, who can take decisions up to a level where then they can pick up one person, the next person they talk to is the director general. And then the other option we look into is to get the state governments on board. So we have a lot of small-scale industries around the country. We can try things from Lagos or from Abuja, but bottom line is the state governors need to be aware of what we can do for them and their industry. So we have MOUs which we went around. We started from Katsina.
So this is how you're now collaborating with the subnationals, with the state governors, which play a very critical role because they're in charge of their states.
I mean, there's like 40 million small-scale industries in the country.
Wow. What exactly does SON do?
Well, SON, honestly, is a very robust organization, which was strengthened by the 2015 Act. Essentially, the organization primary responsibility is to set standards for items. In addition, we have training facilities where we do ISO training programs, where we train people on how to manage things, quality assurance. Quality assurance. The other responsibility is metrology. Metrology is all about measurements, calibration. Now, some in this situation will go to these facilities, the industry, and help them calibrate their machines to make sure they're accurate. The importance of that is the customer doesn't get cheated and the producer doesn't get cheated. Then we do have the management systems where after we train you, then we come to your facility and see if you've done everything we ask you to do. Then we give you a certificate saying that now you're certified with that because that's a requirement. So that's another aspect of standard organization. And then the other big aspect, which is sometimes the one that people know about, is the enforcement and the ports issue, where basically it's our responsibility to inspect items, either manufactured locally or internationally brought into the country to make sure they're up to standard. That's our inspection part of the organization. The enforcement is the part that we need to make sure that people are not breaking the rules. Because when you have standards, somebody has to follow those standards.
That's
If
correct.
people are not following standards, it's part of our responsibility to make sure we call their attention. If it is something they can fix, they fix. If they can't fix it, then we take away the product for the safety of the population and the safety of our industry.
You're watching AMOI Unplugged, Exploring Diversity. We'll be right back with Mallam, Farouk, Salim. He's the DG and the CEO of Standard Organization Nigeria. We'll be right back.
Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, brings a new lease of life to Nigerian SMEs. SON has put a greater premium on developing standards aimed at improving the exports of the nation's food and cash crops. This explains why we have developed more standards for Nigeria's produce like sesame, cocoa, garri, and more, courtesy our accredited state-of-the-art laboratories. In keeping with the federal government's ease of doing business, SON has simplified its processes and turnaround time for SUNCAP and MANCAP to reduce substandard products and legal arm to prosecute offenders. Join Standards Organization of Nigeria in ridding our nation of substandard goods due to consistent market surveillance and raids. See something, say something. Standards Organization of Nigeria, improving life through standards.
What is really the correlation, particularly with unemployment and substandard products?
Well, the correlation is a very simple thing where you have to look at it a little carefully to see the relationship. Now, when you have some sort of person market taking away jobs and closing factories, that means there are no jobs for our teeming youth. So if these jobs are not available, then delinquency steps in. And then you have individuals joining cults and joining banditry, armed robbery, terrorism, everything you can think of just to make a living. So essentially, the direct link between standards and security is there. Alvin Toffler, if you remember The Future, all those books about the future, he clearly stated that most countries that will succeed in the future, and he's talking about this in the 70s and 80s, are the countries that adhere to standards. And you pick any number one country in the world now,
Yeah.
United States, European countries, Germany, England, even China, you will see they're all dealing with things that are standardized. You know, the industries are standardized, the shops are standardized. Everywhere you go, even the buildings are standardized to accept handicap, to accept this, to accept that. So all these correlate to stability of a country and a society. They don't just separate them, they're together.
But so now I'm confused because as you're speaking, I'm thinking that I've heard that Nigeria has the best cables. So when you look at our ability to create good product,
Yes.
it doesn't sort of correlate with Nigeria being a dumping ground for substandard product. How do we get more Nigerians to create that amazing cable or that amazing steel as opposed to importing substandard products? Are you guys at the ports?
We are not at the source of entry of products into the country. We have not been in the ports for the last 10 years because of previous government felt there are too many agencies congesting the ports. So 80% of the goods that we are supposed to regulate and protect, we don't have access to it until they come into the country. This is a big country. There are hundreds and hundreds of markets in the country. And it's difficult to enforce because people are lawless.
Well, you're already in the markets, which is harder. It's
Yeah.
better to checkmate them at the
Exactly.
ports,
My point,
right?
exactly.
Because what's the point of having a great ease of doing business if the substandard stuff that's coming in, it doesn't make sense. It checkmates the ease of doing business policy.
Well, yeah, it's a good idea. The ease of doing business is an excellent idea because it applies to goods going out of the country too. A lot of focus is put on things coming in, but actually it applies more essentially to things leaving. So the ease of doing business goes both ways.
Yeah.
We want our products to leave this country as fast as possible, up to standard as possible. And we want quality goods to come into this country as fast as possible. But we have to have a means where we checkmate bad things coming in, bad things going out. So that's where the problem is. And we are working very, very closely with the authorities to get a situation where we not only get back to where we're supposed to be in the ports, but we are doing it efficiently without disrupting the businesses.
What should a consumer look out for when they're buying a product?
You look at, there's a sign, it's a man cap sign. So you look for a little sign with a bird on it hanging. That's a sun sign saying this product was manufactured in Nigeria, is certified. We are working on changing our logo to make it even more prominent.
Nice.
Where it's eye-catching. And then we are working on product authentication modules, where a person will just come in and scan their phone, if they have a phone, or text a number, and then they will tell them this product is made this way.
Oh, that's technology.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
We're trying to bring in technology into the system. But for the meantime, an average consumer should look for a man cap sign,
Okay.
a NAFDAC number, if it is product that is covered by NAFDAC. It's right there on the label.
Okay.
You will see it. If you don't see a man cap sign or a sun logo on a product, then most likely that product is not up to standard.
Now, I was pleasantly surprised that the American Association for Laboratory Accreditation
Yes.
presented SON with the laboratory accreditation certificate. I mean, that's great news. That's amazing.
Well, we get accreditations from around the world, and we like to go to places where the standards are high.
Yes.
So we get accreditation, and
Is it a game changer for Nigeria?
it is for us. And before that accreditation of our labs, the food and the cable labs and the paint labs, people go to Ghana and neighboring countries.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. So basically, what we are doing is we're not only saving foreign currency.
Yes.
It's a good pride for us, and it's a good opportunity for our exporters and importers to use that opportunity. And this is started from the previous DG. They started working on it because accreditation takes time.
Yes.
It's something that they have to come and inspect, change the standards, and build a facility, get the equipment. But it's a great achievement, but it's the beginning for us. We plan to have labs like the one we have in Lagos in at least 6 to 8 areas in the country. Because there's no need for you, if you are making bread in Kano, you have to fly your bread to Ikejiani for it to be analyzed. You could easily just go to the next office in Kano, our lab, to get those things done. But it takes money. So we are in this process of appealing to the government for more subventions to be able to build these labs, to make these products available to the industries within reach, so that the cost of doing business is decreased.
The Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, brings a new lease of life to Nigerian SMEs. SON has put a greater premium on developing standards aimed at improving the exports of the nation's food and cash crops. This explains why we have developed more standards for Nigeria's produce like sesame, cocoa, garri, and more, courtesy our accredited state-of-the-art laboratories. In keeping with the federal government's ease of doing business, SON has simplified its processes and turnaround time for SUNCAP and MANCAP to reduce substandard products and legal arm to prosecute offenders. Join the Standards Organization of Nigeria in ridding our nation of substandard goods due to consistent market surveillance and raids. See something, say something. The Standards Organization of Nigeria, improving life through standards.
I know you've talked about the importance of consequences. Do you feel right now that where you are with the Act legislative framework, the Act of 2015, do you feel that there is more that can be done to assuage those folks that are still bringing in substandard? I know that the Act gives you the power legally to go with enforcement and shut down, but what about punitive measures?
Well, it's a two-pronged approach. First, this Act is 7 years old, and there are some punitive measures allowed by the Act as a percentage of a product. So that one doesn't change. If you bring a billion naira product, and if the Act says is 5% punitive damage, still 5% of a billion naira. But there are some areas where specific naira value was mentioned. And those areas, honestly, they are outdated. Because if you have a product worth $1 billion and we're just finding you 1 million naira or 50,000 naira, that does not become a deterrence for the individual. So these are some of the things. Hopefully this year we are going to go back to the National Assembly to review some of these areas in the Act to make it more like a percentage, so that in the future, whether our money goes up or down, the percentage is still a percentage of the product, not money-wise. So there are areas that need tweaking, but honestly, the Act is very robust, that if we are allowed to apply it, there is no way we should not be able to create difficulty for individuals who are breaking the law. There are so many other provisions where we still need cooperation from other agencies, from private individuals, from government, but it's there in the Act. I'll give you one example. There is a part of the Act of 2015. It says no government project should be paid until SUN certified that the project was used, or they used substandard goods in the project.
Wow.
So they have to get some certification. If the Bureau for Public Procurement and other organizations work together with us and we are able to enforce it, because sometimes even is the enforcement, even if it's required by BPP, the problem is
in the enforcement.
So the issue is a lot of cooperation that is needed, even with the current law.
If I buy a light bulb, let's say I buy a light bulb in my house, I go to Gudu, and I buy, and I don't even know the shop. I just go and I bring it home, and I put it up there, and it doesn't work. And I go back again and I buy it. And the guy says, no, this one is going to work. And he gives me a receipt and everything. And I put it up and it doesn't work. What can I do?
What you're supposed to do after the first or second incident is to go back to the individual and say, listen, give me back my money and I will report you to the authorities to make sure you stop selling these fake products.
Okay.
So you get your money back, and if you are satisfied with that, it's already consequences for the seller. Because now, next time when he buys products, he now knows he's going to lose money if an educated buyer comes. But you can escalate after that. You can still come to us with a receipt and a sample of what you just bought, and we can set our consumer protection part of our satisfaction area where they will be able to trace the original buyer of this product from the beginning, not just the one in the small shop. They will trace it down to who brought it in. Does he have certification when they brought it in? Do they have proper documentation? And then we can punish that individual from the beginning. But the problem we are having is that individuals will plug a charger, it will burn, they will curse the person and go and look for the original one. I mean, it's so much ingrained in our culture when you go to the market to ask which one is original. Because somebody will tell you, oh, the original Oga is 10,000, but this one, sir, you can manage it, is 1,000. And then most of the customers will knowingly say, give me the 1,001, because that's what I can afford, or that's what I want to buy for my Oga. So you buy it and go. So it's not a totally innocent transaction system.
You're right.
It is both sides, the customers, the sellers. There has to be a level of consequences. There are people who import things who have the ability to manufacture locally.
Okay, give me an example when you say that. There are people that, for example...
I'll give you an example. The former DG, Mr. Aboloma, was telling me a story about one of his people in Counter. This gentleman keeps importing items, and we keep catching it. So he called him. He said, listen, what is wrong with you? Why do you risk all this, and then we are catching it and making you expensive, waste money? He said, listen, if I bring 10 items and you catch 8, the remaining 2, I'll make my money back and profit. Then he told him, he said, listen, why don't you just establish your own factory?
Exactly.
So you can make this thing. And the guy did.
You're kidding me.
Yes, I'm not kidding. He did, and he was making more money by doing that. So he
was making more money when he started producing it in Nigeria.
Yes. So the thing is, there are examples like that where we need individuals to be educated, because sometimes even the importers have no idea. They want to make money, but they have no idea that what they are doing is only causing problems. So we have to go as an organization with a holistic approach. Educate the bringer, educate the buyer, protect both individuals in this transaction, and encourage them to do the right thing. And when they don't do, we get consequences for their actions.
Yeah, and you're juggling, because you're also trying to encourage our entrepreneurs that are overwhelmed, right? Because of the cost of doing business in Nigeria, and just because of it's hard. So when you look at them, and then you look at the substandards that are making it difficult for them to eke out a good living, it's a juggling act. So you're becoming like an inspiration for a lot of those MSMEs that never thought that, oh, Standard doesn't even care about me. Yes. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited that we have someone at the helm of Sun that is not just looking at substandard, but they're also concerned about the quality that the youth, those young guys that are making entrepreneurship their livelihood, that they're doing it the right way, so that we as Nigerians that appreciate good things will support and pay for those products. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Need I say more? I'm sure you've enjoyed that interview. Let's continue the conversation on my social media platforms. I am Chioma Ikejiani. Bye-bye and stay safe.